This is the Infinite Receiving Podcast, helping conscious leaders tap into a wealth of abundance across all areas of your life and business. I'm Susie Ashworth, and I'll be sharing with you how you can upgrade your reality through quantum transformation, because you are ready for infinite receiving. Wow. You are going to love this conversation. I never know where it's going to go with Rha Goddess. She is such an incredible leader. She is the founder of company Move the Crowd. She is a best-selling author of the book The Calling, 3 Fundamental Shifts to Stay True, Get Paid and Do Good. And she is a force in this world. This conversation, we talk about her pilgrimage through Israel and Palestine and what she has learned about humanity because of that journey. This is such a profound conversation. Grab a cup of tea, pull up a chair, and please let me know. Like, if you love this, please reach out to me, reach out to Rha, tag us on social media, and let us know what your biggest takeaways were. This is, I'm not allowed to have favorites, but if I did, this is probably one of them. Okay. Without any further ado, let's get on with the episode. Hello, you gorgeous human being. It is Susie Ashworth here, and you are listening to the Infinite Receiving Podcast. And I am beyond activated right now. I am about to have the most exquisite conversation with one of the most blessed human beings that I have ever had the pleasure to interact with. If you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, then you have definitely heard the dulcet tones of this gorgeous human. At least once, maybe even twice before. And it is such an honor, a pleasure, and a privilege to reintroduce Rha Goddess to my podcast. Welcome, Rha.
Thank you so much, sweet Susie. It is my joy and my honor to be here.
How are you coming to this session today? What are you bringing with you? How do you feel?
We were just sharing a little bit backstage, y'all, about this.
Yeah.
But we're at the top of the year. At least in the recording of this, we're at the top of the year, and it's all of the energies that are moving. And I don't feel like we talk enough about this, Susie. But this can be a really tumultuous time. We talk about the end of the year being a tough time for people, but I think there's something that happens in the beginning of the year where there's sort of this chaotic crossing of energies. And we just finished doing a New Year's message event with our community, and something we do every year as a way to just kind of set the tone. And we literally, as a community of practice, work in the theme for the year. And this year's message, hand delivered from Spirit, was be here now. The 2024 message for our communities, be here now. And as I was saying to you, it is already whipping my tail. This message is already taking me to the mat. You all, 48 hours in.
Yeah.
Ooh, man, barely. And it is delivering me. Let's just put it that way. It's delivering me. Yeah. So that's where y'all find me right now.
I'm curious about that because I've been really deeply contemplating this for myself. This year, my theme is the theme of devotion. And I have tussled with, devotion claimed me. And I've been excited about it. I am excited about it. I've tussled with it. I've questioned what it actually means, because so much of devotion, in the way that I am going to be playing with that that frequency, that word, that intention this year involves discipline. And discipline for me can often create this sense. I'm a free bird. I want to fly. And what I've really had to get my head around is that devotion is it is discipline. Can I be devoted to the vision? Can I be devoted to the mission? Can I be devoted to myself, my heart, my health, what it is that I want to create? Because that is going to take commitment and discipline to keep showing up for myself day after day after day. And 3 days in, I was like, yeah, I this is hard. Like, I understand why people don't fulfill on their New Year's intentions and resolutions so soon, because we are presented with the opportunity to forget or release or kind of use the get out of jail free card very early on. And so when you say that you have been put on the map 48 hours in, I am curious, what is the mindset and the process that you go through when first you become aware and then you have to choose?
Yeah, I love this question, and I love this concept of devotion is one of my favorite words. And I also, sort of say devotion and discipline. And I think that, like, the first thing that arises for me when I see the gap between, like, where I want to be or how I want to show up and how I'm showing up, I'm often looking at, is there a sacred practice, or an opportunity to transform a habit or a way of being or a way of thinking, right? And it always, for me, begins with a way of thinking, right?
Mm,
What is the mindset that I'm bringing to whatever is happening, and everything for me begins with how I'm thinking, right? Because even how I'm feeling is often triggered by how I'm thinking,
yeah.
you know. And I'm going to say that when I'm out of the stream, right? When I'm out of the flow, when
Mm,
I'm in the flow, feeling leads for me. And that's
yes.
actually how I know I'm out.
Yes.
I'm all up in my head, saying all kinds
Yeah.
of things, crazy things. And so it begins with that awareness, that ability
Mm,
to recognize that uh, I am showing up in a way that is in an alignment
mm,
with what I'm wanting, is in alignment with what I'm wanting to experience, is in alignment with what I'm wanting to receive or achieve. And one of the things I've been thinking a lot about this year, as we are newly in it, is how do I meet my fear, my resistance, my uh, pushback with love and compassion.
mm,
The old me has been quite comfortable beating up on myself. And even even under the guise of not beating up on myself,
mm.
like using all the transformational words, y'all, right? And all the transform rhetoric. It's like, no, there's something in this that still does not feel good or honoring. And so it's when I become aware of the gap, my first step is obviously seeing it. My second step is owning it, like
Yeah.
accepting that this is what's happening, this is what's going on, and recognizing in accepting it that I have a choice. Um, and then the third part is that love and compassion, uh, that honoring of whatever is being triggered or activated in the moment, um, that is creating the conversation it's creating. Um, and sometimes, like, I just wrap my arms around myself, the little me that's just scared and wants to know that somebody's going to have it handled. And,
Mm-hmm.
um, and when I can move through that, then I can get to a place of, okay, so what do we want to create, right? What do we
Yeah.
want to have be possible right now? What do we want to have be available right now?
Can you talk a little bit more about the part of you that has been hard on yourself, but pretended that you were not being? What does that sound like? Because I am sure that people all around the world resonate with that, and how we use our spiritual development and prowess and awareness to kind of hide the same old stick that we have always flagellated ourselves with.
Yeah. Yeah, it is that oh, it's okay. You know, it's all right. What will be, you know.
Mm,
Right? Or sometimes it's also like, oh, you know better than that.
yeah.
Which is the one I think, Susie, we often say to
Mm,
ourselves, oh, you should have caught that. You should have been on top of that. And I think the sometimes the it'll be what it'll be is for me is the sort of the BS dismissive. It's like, no. There's an opportunity to look, and there's an opportunity to see here. And I think the part of me that goes to, you should have caught that, you should have been on top of that, you should have been ahead of that,
mm,
you should have foreseen that, um, has to quickly come to, I'm human or divine in a human experience, however we want to look at it. But my humanity is up in here, along with my
yeah.
divinity. My humanity is up in here, and the humility, which is for me a devotional practice, humility
Mm,
that recognizes and understands that it is actually only through the sacred practice, through the devotion, that I grow my capacity to be more loving to myself. I grow my capacity to be more loving to others.
mm,
I grow my capacity to be more loving to whatever situation or circumstance may be happening before
yeah.
me.
As much as I'm
So it's
real,
like, this is how I get present.
yeah, as much as I'm really curious to talk to you about what be here now gets to look like when you're visioning and you're deciding on those the other intentions for the year, I actually would love to talk to you about your 2023 and specifically our mutual friend and, yeah, beautiful human being, Nick Pigeon. She shared how she had gone on pilgrimage with you and how that was possibly one of the most life changing experiences that she had ever had. And she framed it in the context of she was unsure about whether she was going to go. And so I'm really curious about your intention with that pilgrimage. And yeah, I'd love to hear about your own personal experience.
Yeah, in 2017, I had the privilege of meeting an amazing man by the name of William Ury. And for those of you who are not familiar with William or his work, he is the author of the book Getting to Yes, which is like an all-time bestseller. But his work in the day-to-day is that he's a global peace negotiator. And he is one of those magical people that work in the shadows of some of the most difficult conflicts uh, that we face in the world. And certainly if we think about the state of our world right now, if we
Mhm.
consider what's happening in the region we're talking about, which is the Middle East, which is where our pilgrimage was last year, you can only imagine what it is for the people who hold the space for humanity in the midst of those kinds of dynamics, where entrenched leadership feels pressure to show up in ways that challenge the state of our humanity, that challenge our ability to see one another's humanity. And he and I were on a hike. We'd been invited by a mutual friend, shout out Lynn Twist. Um, and we were hiking in the mountains, and he began to talk about this path that he had co created. Uh, it's a 32 intersecting hiking trails that move through the most volatile regions of the world. Like it starts in Syria and navigates down through the border of Turkey and around into uh, Jordan, and then in through to Israel and Palestine and the West Bank. And he said, I'm, going to be walking the path for the 10th anniversary celebration. And something came up through me and out my mouth and was like, I'm walking with you. And 2 months later, I was landing in Jerusalem and taking the first sort of leg of that pilgrimage, which We walked from Jerusalem to Jericho. And what I immediately, and for those of you who have ever been in this region or even energetically tapped into this region, you can feel the presence of history immediately as you touch
Mm.
down. You can feel the energy of the sacred, and you can also feel the energy of all that challenges the sacred. It's a very profound experience. And I believe that there are certain vortexes throughout the world where we know that the ground is soaked, right, with conflict and discord, but it's also enriched with miracles and magic. And it is something about the complexity of that experience and the way in which that land holds that history that has the potential to be life altering for anyone who walks through and feels that uh, that landscape, that terrain underneath their feet or right around their spirit. Um, and in walking in 2017, in a profound moment where William and I were talking and walking, I declared that I was going to bring a cohort of leaders. I was going to come
Mm.
back. I was going to bring a group back. And 2023 was the fulfillment of that promise. Um, what is hard to describe about that land, and there are other, for me, vortexes in the world that I've committed to creating pilgrimages
Mm.
for, but what is so hard to describe is the way in which the moment you say yes to the sojourn, and I think every one of us have had this experience, like the minute you say yes, the journey's begun. And in the case of every single leader that chose to step into this invitation, their lives were transforming long before they got on the plane. And one of the things that this region is such a profound teacher in is how to work with fear, how to navigate uncertainty, right? The what is not guaranteed.
Mm.
When we want assurances about everything, we want to know how it's going to work out. And I believe even in the call of 2024, and this, I think this trip sort of set us up for that, was growing our capacity to work with the mystery. So every single one of us had to work through whether or not we were going to continue to go,
Yeah.
because every day, this was around the time of Easter, you all, and Ramadan and Passover, and the fact that all of these religious holidays converged at the same time, and it was chaos, quite frankly. And every day the news was saying something different about the conflict and the violence, and like, are we going to go into that? Are we going to
Yeah.
walk into that? Are we going to say yes to this?
Yeah.
Are we going to move through what is real and what is imagined, what
Mm.
is factual and what is made up? And this, to me, Susie, is such an important conversation in discernment, because in my mind, every single person had to go to something inside of themselves
Mm.
to make the choice, to make the decision. And literally about 10 days before we were going to get on the plane, I brought everybody together and I said, okay, I'm not choosing for you.
Yeah.
You're choosing. And we're going to choose individually, and we're going to choose as a group, and we're going to determine what's possible.
Mm.
And for those of you who know, you plan, you align, you work, you toil, you create the thing, right? And in that moment of truth, being willing to let it all go and to trust that wherever the energy aligned, that spirit had me. And you all not in like some bypass, like, oh, dismissive, but like grounding, fortifying, eyed wide opening, like, okay, I'm about to see God work in a way maybe that I've never seen God work before. And this delegation chose to go. And each of them, again, in their own internal navigation, what they were willing to work through, and nobody was totally resolved, really. Do you know what I mean? Right? It
Yeah.
was like, some people were like, yo, let's go. I'm up for the adventure. And some people were really grappling, really, really grappling. And I believe that that set the tone for ultimately what happened in being on that land, in walking that path, in being in the homes of the people that we were in the homes of, and breaking bread, and, washing with handmade soap,
Mm,
I mean, the ways in which we touch the land, the ways in which we touch the people. And we were in Israel, Jordan, and Palestine.
mm,
And we were in communities that don't see people outside, you know, because of the nature of the situation and the
mm,
circumstances. And we sat in the stories of these people and
mm,
understood all of the ways in which their lives had been impacted, but also all of the ways in which they had still found love, still found joy, still found connection,
mm,
still found peace. And there is something about witnessing someone's resilience, and I'm going to say resilience rooted in spirit, that's humbling, that's reality checking, that's game changing. We were walking in the Lemon Valley, super quick story, walking in the Lemon Valley, which is in the sort of the central part of the West Bank. And we sat with this beautiful couple, Zain and Mustafa, and they told us the story of their life, about their children, about the way their land was being compromised, and about the way in which they lovingly stood and said no. They were not willing to be complicit. They were not willing to cooperate with what they felt was oppressive to their spirit and their way of
mm,
life and being and living. And as much as we could hear the tragedy in their story, we could also hear the redemption, the losing of two of their children to a rare disease, and then having one of their children become a doctor with the commitment to heal
mm,
that disease, to find the cure, you know? And there was something about sitting in their backyard, eating kumquats off the tree, sipping very strong coffee and tea, right? Made on the fire, right? And it was in that moment where I really understood what it meant to be free. And, so
mm.
much of the way we think about freedom, Susie, is mobility, right? Our
Yeah.
ability to move around and do what we want and go where we want. And these people were in a space where their mobility was challenged in ways that many of us can't even imagine. And yet they were some of the most liberated people I'd ever met because they had chosen love, that love was going to be bigger than anything that happened to them. And that altered me. It changed me on a very, very deep level. And it is why I'm committed to these kinds of experiences, because the blessing of Zain and Mustafa would not have been available to us in a Zoom room. And I
Yeah.
listen, we know transformations happening in Zoom rooms all over the world. So I take
Mm-hmm.
nothing away from that vehicle. I appreciate that vehicle. But there is something about our ability to drop into somebody else's reality and to humbly sit in the face of someone else's reality and really contemplate our own that changes us, that I think makes us more loving and compassionate, more aware, more awake. And that kind of experience is necessary if we really are committed to being the light, if we really are committed to a better world, if we really are committed to helping to heal and uplift humanity. We got to get on the ground. We got to put our hands in the dirt, because then the things that we say mean something very, very different.
What do you think that you learned about your own relationship with fear because of that journey?
That if I can face whatever I think is the worst scenario in my head
Mm-hmm.
and give it to God, source, universe, creation, whatever you want to call it. If I can make room and space for something bigger than me to step in, then magic is possible. Miracles are possible. And it may not look anything like I think
Mm-hmm.
it was going to look. But facing our fear, I believe, gives us access to more of our true selves because it is being willing to be with the fear and move through the fear or walk with the fear that grows our capacity for love.
So, if being with your fear is one way to grow your capacity, the other things I hear you saying is helps us in our quest to increase our capacity. I wonder what other things felt very present for you in relation to that increasing, expanding our capacity for love.
Yeah, we live in a world where we get so many messages about the other. And one of the most heartbreaking aspects of any war or any violent conflict is the way in which we cling to a false belief of us versus them.
Mm,
And if you ask me what I think has the potential to be our full undoing, it is the belief that there is an us and a them.
yeah,
There is only us, you all.
yeah. There is no
It's only
separation.
us.
Yeah.
That is, do you understand? That is all there is us. And there is no separation. One of the things that immediately began to be present for some of the leaders who were on that land was the degree to which they felt like what they had heard and what they experienced being so vastly different.
Mm,
And I think about the ways in which sometimes we can be very complacent and dismissive about the othering that
mm,
occurs all the time. Like, even in our most sacred relationships, if we get triggered, or we get scared, or we get angry, all of a sudden the other person is the enemy.
yeah.
And our ability to so quickly get there and what we get robbed of because we entertain it. And I know, Susie, this is a very provocative conversation right now because Lord knows if you come into the world of social media as it relates to this conflict in this region,
Mm,
all kinds of things are being said.
yeah.
And I am saying the more that we cling to the belief that there is a side in this,
Mm,
and the more that we cling to the fallacy that anybody is winning
yeah.
in this, the more we are challenging our own visions for a better world. So I think for me, recognizing where us and them lives in me,
Yes.
right? Because it's easy to sort of go, that region, those people, that, we could have lots and lots and lots to say about our beloved leaders right now. But where does that live in me? Where is there an opportunity to heal that in me?
And I think that what comes up for me, because even before you said that, the contemplation that was coming up is not just what about the us and them that I project out, but all of those parts of me that I reject because it's not good enough, because I don't think other people will accept it, because I am not I am not in love with that part of me. I don't believe that that part of me is worthy, that part of me is deserving. That's the integration that we are talking about when it comes to transformation and it beginning and starting with you. Like, where are you othering yourself? where can you allow more of yourself to
Yeah.
be, which is what you said right at the beginning. Where can I hold myself, love myself, honor myself, all of myself, even the nasty, the dirty, the whatever,
Yeah.
all of those shadowy parts that we judge. How much of that can I allow and integrate into myself instead of othering myself?
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is that I speak that, I can literally hear the voice saying, yeah, but those parts of you are not your highest self. That is not the highest vision you have for yourself. So why would you want to integrate that? And it's in that conversation that we have with ourselves. And until you heal that very specific conversation that you have with yourself, it makes it very
Yeah.
difficult, if not impossible, to be able to remove that level of judgment and othering of others.
So much of what you are naming, I want to underscore because, even in our message this year, be is the first word.
Mm,
Be is the first word, and it is that. It is what are those parts of ourselves, not only those shadow parts of ourselves, but what are those incredible parts of ourselves that we're also suppressing, that we're also sitting on, that we're also tamping down because we're afraid of how they're going to be received,
mm,
or because we were told at a very young age, you don't get to do that, or you don't
yeah.
get to be that, or you don't get to have that, or you don't get to
Mm,
show that. One of the most profound interactions for me in the the time we were together in our community receiving the message were so many people in our community in their 50s and their 60s saying, I don't even know all of who I am
yeah.
because I have not allowed myself to be. And it's everything that you're saying, because even what we judge as shadow is profound. Even what we judge as less than stellar has a purpose and a role to play
Yes.
in our full becoming, in our full embracing. And when we, as you say, when we judge, or we sort of push back, or we tamp down or suppress, based upon what we think is about being presentable to the world,
Mm,
we are not at our full capacity.
mm,
This is about full range of motion. Being is about full range of motion. And I think, Susie, to your point, we deny ourselves full range. We deny ourselves full range. But our liberation depends on it. And so does the liberation of our planet.
mm. What do you say to the people who are afraid of their full range? Like they believe that if everybody allowed all of themselves, we would, the world would be an even more chaotic place.
I think part of what we grapple with is distortion
Hmm.
and the understanding that when we suppress certain aspects of ourselves, that over time the pressure builds. And what ultimately winds up happening is, and we know that this is true, you cannot keep something down forever. You know, there's a really powerful saying, whatever you can't be with, bees with you.
Mm.
And in the attempt to suppress and oppress those aspects of ourselves, we create distortion. I'm going to give you an example. It is the little boy who was never allowed to cry. Well, that pent up grief becomes agony,
Mm.
and that agony becomes rage, and that rage becomes abuse. You all hear what I mean? And that abuse, and we can keep going, becomes war. And
Mm.
so, what we are grappling with is the fact that if we continue to be in a conversation of not trusting ourselves, we continue to be in a conversation of alienating ourselves from ourselves, because God forbid you got your way, you just do something crazy. This is what we've been told, right? You
Yeah.
can't trust yourself.
Yeah.
So, no, you don't get to unleash because you don't have good judgment, or you don't get to unleash
Mm.
because you don't know what you're doing, or you don't get to unleash because you've made mistakes. All of this sort of torturous domination. And so, our fear of chaos
Mm.
has to do with all of the ways that we witness distortion, which we don't even recognize as the root of the distortion is the suppression. Like it's like, oh,
I
who
think,
would the little boy be if he could cry?
yeah, I think that these conversations are so important. And it reminds me of the mass awakening that happened in 2020 and all of the cognitive dissonance, because you grow up culturally, I don't know how to say it, societally, and within your community. And it just is what it is, what it is, what it is, because that's the way that it's always been. So when we have a conversation like this, where it's like, what would it mean for you to express all of yourself, for you to give yourself permission to express all of yourself? You have people within your community, even myself, people within my community being like, I don't even really know what that means. I can't even get my head around what that means. But I know that it feels scary because I've been told that it wasn't safe for me to do that since I saw someone exploding, or my parents saw somebody exploding. And that's what happens when you just allow yourself to do whatever you want whenever you want. So I am curious, how do you start getting to know yourself and feel yourself?
Yeah, one word. There's one word that comes up, and that is play. Play. And I know, right? Because Susie, we want to be so serious about this,
Yeah.
right? And I really honestly believe that we discover more of who we are when we're willing to play, when we're willing to experiment, when we're willing to explore, when we're willing to inquire, when we're willing to be curious about who we really are.
Yeah.
What would it be, even with the most serious aspects of ourselves, if we could be playful with it,
Yeah.
right? We could be silly, we could be serious, we could be sexy, we could be mischievous, we could be, you know what I mean? Like, so I want to say that many of us have to learn how to play, because if there is any place where we've been suppressed,
Yeah.
it's in the area of joy, it's in the area of fun, right? It's in the area of, just spontaneity and serendipity. And if I can't offer you anything else for 2024, I want to offer you a license to play, a license to
I think
play, because that's how we begin to access more of who we really are.
this is so crazy because I literally just had a whole podcast conversation around play. So the fact that that has just come off the tip of your tongue, I'm like, hello, because I think that the idea of play, you're right, for many adults makes them feel immediately uncomfortable. It's like, grow up. When are you going to grow up? When are you going to be your most adult self? Play is for children. Like, we have responsibilities. We've got a lot to do. We've got mortgages to pay. We've got bills over here. Like, the idea of play, and within this context of what is going on in the world, particularly for the sensitive beings who are tuned in and feel the rage and feel the frustration, this idea of play can even sound frivolous.
And yet, it is sacred.
Mm.
Play is sacred. And again, not what we've been taught, but our ability to move energy, our ability to move through the dimensions and the multifaceted nature of our spirits is about play, is about exploration, is about inquiry. And it is important, if we learn nothing else through our pilgrimage, it was the fact that you still must live no matter
Yeah.
what the situation or the circumstances are, right? I think this is something we also learned through the sacred pause, aka the
Mhm.
pandemic. Like, are you not going to laugh for 3 years?
Yeah.
Are you not going to dance for 3 years?
Yeah.
Are you not going to, you see what I mean? And so there's something about the way in which we've been indoctrinated to believe that the difficult things that show up in our life should only be here for 5 minutes.
Mm.
And anything beyond 5 minutes of discomfort is a problem.
Mm.
And I want to say to you all, there are people who live like day in, day out, live in discomfort. And they have learned how to live in discomfort and find
Mm.
joy and find strength and find power and find laughter and find silly. And that those things in the face of those circumstances are superpowers. And they belong to you too. This is the next level of our capacity, right? And oh, Susie, we could talk about this all day. But here's what I want to say. For some of us, our way of being is like cement. It's like cement. Nothing's moving. Like, this is the way we've done it, the way we've always done it. We were always going to do it. This is who we've
Yeah.
been, who we're going to be, right? And I'm like, ooh, I want to invite you in 2024 to take a sledgehammer to that. Break it all open and really discover who you are. You might be surprised.
Oh, lordy, lordy. So, be here now, theme for 2024. What are the other, are
Be
there
here
any
now.
other big intentions? Yeah, be here now. Are there any other big intentions for you, your community, for this next cycle?
We are preparing for Bali, which will be our 2025 trip. We go every other year.
Okay.
So we're in the midst of that. And that particular sojourn is all about the spirit of water. And so that pilgrimage is being readied and prepared. Um, I'm working on the second book, which will be coming
Ah,
also in 2025. I promise I'll share more about that as it comes.
yeah.
Um, but it is all about reimagining our relationship to ambition
Hmm.
and the way we work and the way we work. And I think so much of what we've talked about today in terms of this next level of liberation and
Hmm.
what we allow ourselves and what we give ourselves room uh, to discover, to be, to create, to express has a lot to do with the way in which we've been indoctrinated to
Hmm.
work, even when we're working on things we love.
Yeah.
And so uh, that work is coming, and I would say in the context of this year's message, the giving yourself permission to discover who you really are,
Hmm.
right? Through the auspices of play, letting go, I say releasing and unleashing.
Yeah.
All right, allowing both to occur. The here part is about defining your context
Hmm.
and recognizing that you get to decide what the narrative for here is.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us have a narrative called We're Behind, or
Mhm.
we have a narrative called we're not living up to
Mm.
our expectations, or we have a narrative called not enough. And the question this year is, where do you want here to be? Because here could
Mm.
be whatever you say it is. And then the now is seize the moment, seize the day, especially in terms of the play and in terms of the devotion, right?
Yeah.
Like the now is a sacred moment, inviting a sacred devotional act in honor of wherever it is you want to be and whatever it is you want to experience. Do it now. Be it now. Have it now. Enjoy it now.
I love these intentions so much. I am deeply excited to read everything that you have to say about ambition and work. Is definitely a contemplation I had towards the end of last year. Actually, going into my 45th year, seeing a lot of people being like, oh, I am releasing actually the vision, the dream, the desires that I had, and me being very activated by that and wondering whether I was doing it wrong or thinking it wrong, and should this next phase be the softer phase and not. And even those words like soft, hard, go for it, rah, rah, it's just like what feels true for me is that the mission and the desire to create impact and be the embodiment of the vision, and the vision is love. The vision is activation. The vision is transformation. That's never felt stronger and feels more important than ever. So, anyway, I'm I'm waiting with eager anticipation to see what you have to share and write, and I cannot wait to support you. And this brings me very beautifully onto my six short fire questions, quick fire questions that I am asking all of my guests to celebrate the launch of my new book, Infinite Receiving. And I love the conversation today because so many of the themes, whilst we're talking in completely different language, absolutely converge. You know, my intention is for people to be more full of themselves so that when they are creating, when they are choosing, when they are consciously choosing what it is that they want to receive, is coming from a place of fullness rather than from a place of I need to fill myself up. And I think that from that place, we get to create, we get to play, we get to be, we get to impact in such a complete way rather than from this place of lacking. And so I'm excited for everybody to receive it. And on that note, I want to ask you, the name of the book is Infinite Receiving. What does infinite receiving mean to you?
Hmm. It means being available
Mm.
for all of the love that wants to come to you.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about this all providing energy, and I believe that there is an all providing energy that every single one of us has a sacred connection to.
Mm.
And the more of us that can be available, the more we get to take in. And so I feel like, you say infinite receiving, I feel like it's about being available,
Yeah.
about being infinitely available to the
100%.
magic.
How good are you at being infinitely available for the magic?
I am a work in progress. But more and more,
Yeah.
I feel it is about trusting,
Mm.
learning to trust, learning to allow. And so I would say that I am a work in progress, but getting better and better every day, little by little.
Here's the thing. Throughout the book, I really own my status as a student of the work. Like I'm sharing from this place of still being, yeah, still learning, still like at the bottom of the mountain. But one of the things that I describe is the frequency of infinite receiving is the type of frequency that makes people want to stop and just, they'll say like, "Do I know you?" Or like, "What do you do?" Or "Where are you from?" Like, I need to just connect with you. You, for me, are the embodiment of that frequency. Like when I am with you, I just want to shh, slow down and stop and receive all of the love, all of the wisdom, all of the codes that are just flowing through every orifice, every cell of your being. Like you just can't help it. It's so like my heart just goes. So, yes, you might feel like a work in progress, but I'm like, when I grow up, can I have that frequency? I want that. So, thank you. Where or who in
Thank
your
you.
life right now, Ra, can you allow to love you just a little bit more? So, where or who in your life can you allow to love you just a little bit more?
I feel like the my team
Mm,
comes up. I feel very blessed to be working in collaboration and partnership with an amazing circle of souls,
mm.
and and more they are trying to take things out of my hands. You all know how that is.
I'm good. I'm
And
fine.
more I am learning how to surrender.
Yeah.
Exactly. I
Okay.
got
Good. Good.
it.
Yeah.
More and more I'm learning how to surrender.
Yeah.
Yes, how to surrender, how to trust, that
Mm,
spirit moves through them just the way it moves through me. And, and there's
yeah.
divine serendipity all around. Um, and that those people in our lives who come to us are
Mm,
here for a reason.
mm,
They have something for us.
yeah.
And I feel like letting myself be loved by my team this year.
What is your greatest attribute?
I feel like I have an enormous capacity to love
Mm,
and to see people for who they really are, no matter what the situation or the circumstances. Um, that I can receive people fully and welcome them fully.
yeah. What is one thing that you are consciously working on manifesting right now?
More play. The message was for me as much as it was
Yeah.
for everybody else.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, funny how interesting how that works, y'all, right?
Yeah.
But more play, manifesting more space to just be
Yeah.
silly and irreverent, as my beloved Dana Balicki would say, reverently irreverent.
Yeah.
Yeah, more room and space for that.
And final question, which maybe you answered a little with the love, but we're going to ask it anyway. Where can you allow yourself to be even more supported in your life right now?
I think it is about continuing to honor that I am in collaboration with the great all there is,
Mm,
and more space to let God do its part. I have a God jar, and my leaders who are maybe listening to this, shout out, right? I introduced the God jar to our beloved community, and to remember that that jar is a symbol of all of the ways in which the all providing energy wants to collaborate with me
mm.
and us. And so, more room and space for that divine collaboration.
So beautiful. Ra, thank you so, so deeply. I would love for you to share before you go where my community can find more of your wisdom and brilliance online.
Thank you so much. I'm at everything at Rha Goddess, RHA, Goddess. And then our company is Move the Crowd. And our web is movethecrowd.me, as in move me.
Mm.
And in whatever way that you want to reach out and say hello, or if you have questions, it would be my joy to meet you, to get to know you. And Susie, thank you so much for your incredible voice, your incredible force, your incredible work. I cannot wait to read the book. Congratulations, my sister. I'm so proud of you. And we will
Thank
be all up
you.
in infinite receiving. You best believe our community.
Yeah.
We will be blessing our community with this book. I want to say it now. We look
Amazing.
forward,
Thank
really
you.
look forward to celebrating you and lifting you up this year. Yeah, so welcome.
Thank you so much. I hope that you have loved this episode as much as I have. And if you have, please do me a favor and share this incredible message with at least one other human that you know that would benefit or just love to hear what we have talked on and through today. Thank you so much in advance. And please remember that faith plus action equals miracles. Thank you for listening to Infinite Receiving with me, Susie Ashworth. I'd love to share with you my Infinite Receiving activation audio. Go to susieashworth.com/activate infinite receiving.